Okay, greetings, brothers and sisters. So, Tweeter, the artist formerly known as Tweeter, now known as X for some, you know, Elon Musk reason, sends me, I wake up in the morning usually and there'll be some tweets that Tweeter is trying to suck me into their platform with. They're usually political and they could be Democrat or Republican. I get more Republican than Democrat. But I got this one and I saw the first line here. This is from a guy named Victor Shi, who's got a check mark. So he's somebody. And he says, boom, Taylor Swift just posted on Instagram for her 280 plus million followers saying, I wanted to remind you guys to vote the people who most represent you into power. You. If you haven't already, make a plan to vote today. And then the guy says, Republicans can't stop Taylor Swift. This is why we will win. So he's obviously a Democrat. And it got almost 500,000 views. She reminds her followers there are elections, specifically in Tennessee and other states and territories today. This is simple but usually effective nudge for followers. And just remember, her voter registration rates broke records because of her. This is big. Thank you, Taylor. This is so sad. You're looking at Swifties to turn the tide for you. Like, what, this is what you, Kansas City Chiefs, right? Victor Shi is a Gen Z speaker, writer, and organizer. He currently hosts The Daily Show on the Move with Victor Shi. I guess he's part of The Daily Show now. He's a politicon. He has an Instagram page here. And what a sad post by him. So, first of all, this election isn't going to be decided by Taylor Swift because, again, that's not an endorsement. And, Trump was upset at her because I guess Trump passed some sort of bill that enabled or protected artists, singers and performers and helped them maximize, it was a Trump tweet. I don't know. He said something about it. But this guy saying this stuff about Taylor Swift, like what a sad, pathetic thing, because ultimately, this is your guy. My wife found this on Twitter yesterday. We watched it together. This is your guy. If you're a Democrat, this is your guy. And I'm not, Trump sucks. And Trump sucks worse on Israel, which is right now probably the biggest issue. Trump's on the wrong side, as it was Hickey and Haley, and we'll get into that because it was Super Tuesday yesterday. Apparently, the State of the Union isn't until maybe next week. I don't know. But this is what he said.
Anyway, and I don't want to.
I wish the music wasn't here because, it might be copyrighted and it's unnecessary. Like, just don't put music behind stuff. You suck if you do. Just let the truth speak for itself. Like, you don't need music here.
I don't want to.
February. This is your guy. Like, this is your guy that you're saying Taylor Swift's going to get into the... I mean, this is what you're pushing out there. And the problem was, I'm not going to cover it here because I bring it up every once in a while. I show you some of his old gaffes. He was doing this in 2019. He sucked, and he was a plagiarizer, and he was a failed presidential candidate 3 times before this current iteration of him. But in 2009, he showed that he was mentally unfit for the job. Like, it was there. He was wandering around stage, insulting people, challenging them to IQ tests and push-up contests. I mean, he was crazy. Like, he was nuts. And it was mental deterioration. Like, he sucked before, and then he sucked. He wasn't good enough to win the nomination before, in his prime. Like, he lost significantly. He was never a serious candidate. he was never a serious candidate for vice president. I mean, Obama picked him for whatever reason, right? To play the fool to his, to his celebrity, whatever it was. But he wasn't serious candidate to win presidency ever. And then because he was vice president, because he came out of the whole Obama coalition thing, and because Republicans didn't hate him, and they thought he would do well with independents, and he was sort of moderate, and he had all the, Obama, Clinton, Democratic establishment behind him, they picked him. Because there's a sea of horrible candidates, but the guy is, he polled at 20% just because of name recognition, but he was clearly gone mentally. And the media and everybody else ignored it. I mean, this is 2019, 2020, and then all of a sudden now they're talking about his age, right? But they got Kamala, who sucks, Gavin Newsom, who sucks, and God knows who else waiting in the wing. And so, people say they're going to roll out Michelle Obama. I think that's just some paranoid Republican theory out there, these Republican theories. I don't think that's really on the table. But whoever they decide to replace him with, they have to replace him because this is your guy, right? As much as they hate Trump, you can't vote for this guy. Like you're voting for somebody who is incapable of completing a complete sentence, right?
Well, I won't go into it.
Here's what drives the driver in the states that are affected. Here's what you can do, the drivers.
For two reasons. One, it's an impact the decades been making.
So I'm gonna, again, I might get copyrighted on this thing. It's a minute and 19 into it. It goes on for 5 minutes. It's kind of epic, right? And we've seen this. It's just they put together a compilation of him not being able to say anything. And he happens all the time. This happens every speech. And he loses himself. And this is their guy. Like, you have nothing. And again, Trump sucks. And, Trump is horrible on so many things. And, the Operation Warp Speed, he screwed us and all of it. Like, Trump sucks. Fish boy. There's nothing good about Trump. And the Trumpers at this point. They're all complicit in, like, America sucking, like, really bad right now. And so there's no Republican answer here. Nikki Haley sucks, and she's worse on Israel than even Trump. Trump is the worst, or the second worst, and Nikki Haley is the worst. And so they're all, it's all sucks. But you can't vote for this guy. How could you vote for this guy? You really shouldn't vote for Trump. And Trump is breaking down mentally as well. We'll get into Trump as we go through this. But he's not this bad, right? Mentally. Like, Trump has his own, he's worse in different areas. But you really can't vote for either one of these candidates. Like, you can't endorse something like this. It's, you're selling yourself out. It's just, you can't do it. Like, you just can't do it, right? It's not right, So, I covered this last video here, but it's worse. Here's more. Here's more from Morning Joe and Mika.
And as we barrel toward a likely rematch of the 2020 election, one candidate continues to have a hold over white rural voters. But it's not Joe Biden.
It's not Joe Biden?
Here, as a boy on the right side of your screen who went to public school, is the son of a used car salesman and was born to a middle-class family in Scranton, Pennsylvania. Instead...
look at how old these pictures are, right? Trump's is in black and white, and Joe Biden, the whatever's that is, grayscale, I don't even know, right? Like, they didn't even have colored photos, and if they did, the colors have faded. And so, these are old dudes. Like this, and going back this far, like, you're compared to, you're concerned about their upbringing. She's comparing their upbringing for why rural voters should vote for Biden. It's because the Democrats and their positions and policies are not aligned with what people in the country believe in. So why even go in there, Mika? Like what? Because Joe Biden grew up in, who knows what he said because he stole his family history from other people, right? He plagiarized his family history from other people's speeches. So we don't even know, like, what's true and what's not. We do know he had a friend named Corn Pop, allegedly. We do know that he was a lifeguard, and he liked African American kids to rub his legs, the hair on his legs, because, he knew about such things. I mean, this is one of his gaffes. The guy's senile as well. So you can't, this is not even, why are you even talking about this? Address the fact that you guys ran a senile candidate, and now you're stuck with Kamala, right?
It is Trump here on the left side, a private school educated son of a New York City real estate tycoon who became a millionaire at 8 years old and didn't have to serve because he claimed he had bone spurs in his little feet. So why is it that Trump appeals so much to a group he couldn't be more different from? Joining us now, professor of political science at the University of Maryland.
These are these guys, so we're going into this.
Baltimore County, Tom Schaller, and journalist and opinion writer Paul Waldman. Their new book, out tomorrow, is entitled White Rural Rage, the Threat to American Democracy. And Tom, we'll start with you.
Look at this woman sitting here like he's got a... look at her. I'll go back here a second here.
To American democracy. And Tom, we'll start with you. Why are white rural voters a threat to democracy at this point? You would think, as we pointed out, looking at Joe Biden's background and Donald Trump's, that the opposite would be true.
I mean, we lay out the fourfold interconnected threat that white rural voters pose to the country. First of all, and we show...
Again, they don't pose a threat. If democracy fails, it fails, right? If you disenfranchise a group of people and they make up a majority or lots of people, like if you're saying white rural people, and they're not, rage is not, come on. I live in the country and, I'm around country people all the time. I don't see a lot of rage, right? So this is where the most violent crimes happen, right? So red to pink. And look at where the majority of our centralized, these are all in cities. This is the rural areas out here where very few people live. And there isn't very many crimes there at all, right? California has the majority of the red is right here in California. And so there's a lot of stuff here on the borders as well. But you have, this is down where Miami is and all these places. These are all cities. And the majority of violence and violent people are in the cities. That's just, let's get real about the thing. That's just all the way it is. City life causes violent behavior. People packed on top of each other causes conflict. Space, when you go into a therapy type situation, or you're in a treatment center or something like this, they tell people take your space, right? They have timeout rooms and places for kids to go, places for kids to isolate. When you're in a marital dispute, they talk about how to get away from the other person, right? Don't engage, right? Both people go to their separate corners. That's what happens in boxing. You create space. Space is important for peace, right? The majority of conflict happens when people are on top of each other. Might be in a country, ethnic cleansing, these types of things. When groups of people are packed together, warring groups or whatever. But when there's space, there's a better chance for peace. Pretty much everything you do to de-escalate situations is to create space between the angry parties. You separate the people. I mean, that's just a well-known fact. And it's harder to do that in cities. And so this whole idea is just ridiculous.
30 polls and national studies to demonstrate this. So we provide the receipts in Chapter 6. They're the most racist, xenophobic, anti-immigrant, anti-gay geodemographic group in the country. Second, they're the most conspiracist group. QAnon support and subscribers, election denialism, COVID denialism, and scientific...
So you're labeling people's beliefs that based on liberal standards. Of course, this is a liberal show, and this is a liberal democratic people. And so this is why you're saying you're demonizing these people. You can say the same thing about the liberals who, there's a lot more liberal rage, especially when Trump was president, than there is with conservatives. There's fear and anger in the Republican conservative community, has always been there. They appeal to fears of conservatives. It's mostly older people. Conservatives are usually the older people. And you become more conservative as you get older. And older people have fears. And younger people are usually more liberal, and liberal people have anger and outrage, right? So the Democrats appeal to the anger, which creates fear, and the Republicans appeal to the fear. They target the fear, and that creates anger. So both things flip, right? But that's how politics works. And to pretend that like one group is so much worse than the other, when I was born, my parents and grandparents were Democrats for the most part. And I was a more liberal person most of my life. And I went to liberal schools, colleges, and most of my friends were liberal. I lived in liberal states and liberal areas, college towns, and things like this. And so for me, I can say that the liberals are much worse right now because they have the power and because they're unhinged. If I had to say one group is more a threat to democracy, it's the liberals, right? Because they have the power they have the majority right now, and they have the backing of the money and the media and things like this. So it's and you have Trumpers who are, a disenfranchised group, right? Okay, I also want to comment on this because watching this again, I realized this was one of the reasons I wanted to cover this again. When he says this.
Second, they're the most conspiracist group.
Okay, so this idea that if you're a conspiracy theorist and you have conspiracies, you're a bad person, undesirable, threat to democracy, right? And, they have their conspiracies. They got all these conspiracies about Trump and conspiracies about Russia, and, you'll see one coming up. I'm in the editing process, so I know what's coming in this video. But they're always talking about their conspiracies. When Hillary Clinton talked about conspiracies, that was okay, right? But they're talking specifically about right-wing people, truthers, and they're not the same thing. Right-wing people and truthers are not the same thing. You can't be a right-wing truther. A truther is somebody who sees beyond the left-right paradigm. But, this idea that conspiracy theorists are bad and having conspiracy theories is bad. But there's two kinds of conspiracy theorists. Ones that are right and ones that are wrong. And neither one is necessarily bad. In fact, maybe the ones that are wrong might be a little bit more stupid, a little bit more crazy, but they're not bad because the reason that people have conspiracy theories is because the people in power suck. Humans suck in general. Humans are liars and cheaters and stealers, right? I mean, we can be great, we can be good people, but if you lie to yourself, you lie to others, whatever your lies are, if you lie to have power, I mean, there's all these different versions of lies. Everything's a lie. Our media's a lie. Our entertainment's a lie. I mean, movies are a lie, right? Even our technology is a lie because you guys it sounds like you're listening to my voice, but that isn't even true. You're listening to a digital replication of my voice, right? So even this is a lie. Even this kind of medium is a lie. It's inaccurate, right? It's an illusion. And even our bodies and our physical reality is a lie because our soul is what we really are, which is etheric and without form. So third dimensional reality, everything we see is a lie, an illusion in one way or another, like we're in a giant simulation or video game. But because of the deception, you can be a good person, but if you lie, that's a bad behavior. Dishonesty is a bad behavior. Dishonesty leads to bad things, right? I mean, there might be some sideways outcomes that are positive because the lie was told, but in general, lies lead to bad things. Like lies lead to worse things, right? More lies and more deception and hurt feelings and broken hearts and, injuries and deaths and, lies lead to wars and, all of these things. Believing your own lies and telling other people lies and mass deception. Lies are not good. And our money is a lie. Our economic system is one of the biggest lies. Our debt-based economic system that has value. And so our whole culture is predicated on us lying and being lied to and the people in power lying to us to keep a system that should have collapsed years ago going. It's a Ponzi scheme. I mean, not just the economic system, but we live in an unnatural, dishonest system. And so, of course, people who tell the truth and find conspiracies in the expose lies and expose conspiracies are a threat to the system. Of course we are. Because if the truth comes out, it can only hurt the system. I've said this so much. Our economic system's based in perception. Perception of a monetary system that doesn't have any real value. Perception that we're living natural and good lives. And every part of our system, whether it be our religions, our science, our academics, our food system, it's all based in lies. It's all based in, deception. And so any kind of truth is going to weaken the system. Truth is a kryptonite to an illusionary system, a lie system. The truth brings down deception. And so when people are looking for the truth and finding the truth, well, they are a threat to the system. But that doesn't mean they're bad. They're actually good because the system's bad, and we're just exposing the lies that are there. They like the people who are wrong. What they're really scared of is truthers that are right. The only ones they talk about are the QBs and the Trumpers, all these types of people, right? Maybe some of the crazy woke people. That's all they'll cover. They'll cover the people who are crazy and wrong because those people aren't a threat to the system. Those people are, they're there and you can use it as a weapon to go after people who are seeking the truth, right? And so saying things like this, you discredit yourself because there are conspiracies. We all know the government and the media lies to us all the time. Anybody with a pulse knows that, right? And so, they push out this agenda, but it's just ridiculous.
Skepticism, Obama birtherism. Third, anti-democratic sentiments. They don't believe in an independent press, free speech. They're most likely to say the president should be able to act unilaterally without any checks from Congress or the courts or the bureaucracy. They're also the most strongly white nationalists and white Christian nationalists. And fourth, they are most likely to excuse or justify violence as an acceptable alternative to peaceful public discourse.
So you mentioned a lot of negative factors about this
Go, Mika. Go, Mika.
demographic. Tom, what else do they have in common?
She thinks she just nailed Trump. Like her smile right there. What else do they have in common with Trump, she's saying?
What else do they have in common?
Look at that smug look. She thinks she just gave it to Trump. The one good thing about Trump winning is the misery, but it won't be as good as in 2016. Trump sucks, and people have to deal with that. There's no solution here, and there never was because, people suck right now. It's a downtime, and there's no stopping what's going to happen. The American empire, the British, European American empire is on its way out, and there's so many ways to see it. It should be obvious.
I think that what really matters at
what
this
makes
point
them
in time.
vulnerable?
Oh, well, a lot of that has to do with, as a starting point, the problems that rural America has, which are very real and very profound. They have the more problematic education systems. They have poor infrastructure. They've had a lack of economic opportunity. We've seen a lot of manufacturing jobs leave from rural areas. And that kind of left them open to someone like Donald Trump, who would come along and tell them something that was true, that there is a system that has not served them well. And he said...
Look at him go. Look at they got him smiling.
They're pissed off.
They are pissed off, and they have some reason to be with both parties.
Let's move forward here to more.
In middle America to try to talk to red-hatted MAGA folks about what concerned them, what they were mad about. Nobody went to the rural African Americans, rural Latinos, rural Native Americans to find out what they're mad about. And they have every reason to be mad. But you know what they're not doing? They're not overrunning the Capitol. They're not going down to their state capitol carrying AR-15s.
They have
It's a disconnect.
And nobody.
The white people just suck so much worse.
Treats them the way we do white rural Americans, as though we have a moral obligation to know what they're angry about and to cater to them.
So,
Go ahead.
Well, the book is White Rural Rage. You can find out more in it. The Threat to American Democracy. Authors
Boom.
Tom Schaller and Paul Waldman. Thank you both very much. We really appreciate.
I wonder what their ethnic background is. So I was going to cover Trump's victory speech. I'll do that next. I was going to do that here, but I just went and ate like a, kind of a pre-lunch. I just kind of got up early and was hungry and had a snack, and I turned the news on. You know, and they had all these pundits talking about Hickey Haley. You know, when Hickey Haley decided to suspend her candidacy, you know, they were talking about this morning. My wife and I both saw it on our phones at basically the same time. My wife said, Hickey Haley is suspending her campaign. Sorry. You know, because I like calling her Hickey Haley. But, you know, I wasn't, whatever. Like, it was inevitable. And I turned on the news just, 5 minutes ago, 10 minutes ago. And they're talking about Nikki Haley, Hickey Haley, like she ever had a chance. Like, this was decided like a year ago. Like, this decided, 2020 when Trump lost and said he was going to run again for. I mean, it was already this was already predetermined. Unless Trump was in jail, he was going to be the nominee for the Republican Party. No matter what he did, and no matter what they said about him, he still has an overwhelming support. And it was like, it was like first quarter of some sort of sporting event, and it's 100-0, right? Like she had no chance. It's a hockey game. Like it was, it's that bad. There was no chance she was ever going to come back and win. She has no chance unless Trump goes to jail. Other than that, and we don't know if she would be the person that would win if Trump wasn't in the picture. Like you can't judge this candidacy or the Republican candidates based in Trump being there because, her being the best of the worst or the best of the rest, that doesn't mean anything, right? She was right against Chris Christie and, Ron DeSantis was horrible. I mean, just so creepy and unlikable and strange. I mean, for a sea of unlikable, creepy candidates, he was the worst. And Vivek Ramaswamy wasn't even he wasn't even thinking that he was going to win or any of these things. So we don't even know how this would go if Trump wasn't in the picture, right? So the whole thing's just ridiculous. But here's her speech here.
Mother, a first-generation immigrant, got to vote for her daughter for president. Only in America.
She's just so fake and stiff and...
I am filled with the gratitude for the outpouring of support we've received from all across our great country. But the time has now come to suspend my campaign. I said I wanted Americans to have their voices heard. I have done that. I have no regrets. And although I will no longer be a candidate,
we must have a few of them.
I will not stop using my voice for the things I believe in. Our national debt will eventually crush our economy. A smaller federal government is not only necessary for our freedom, it is necessary for our survival. The road to socialism is the road to ruin for America. Our Congress is dysfunctional and only getting worse.
Exactly. Lay it out there. Lay it out there, Hickey.
It is filled with followers, not leaders. Term limits for Washington politicians are needed now more than ever. Our world is on fire.
It's on fire. Listen to Hickey Haley.
Because of America's retreat. Standing by our allies in Ukraine, Israel, and Taiwan is a moral imperative. But it's also more than that.
What is it, Hickey Haley?
If we retreat further, there will be more war, not less.
Not less war. If we stop causing wars, there'll be less wars. It just works out that way. If we stop pushing for wars and creating wars and endorsing wars and helping with wars, there'll be more wars and not less. I mean, it's just the way it works.
As important, while we stand strong for the cause of freedom, we must bind together as Americans. We must turn away from the darkness of hatred and division. I will continue to promote all those values, as is the right of every American.
Yeah, but no one's going to listen to you because you no longer have a platform. No, you became irrelevant. And she was irrelevant the whole time, right? She was irrelevant because she had no chance of winning. Now, Trump may or may not go to jail. And Joe Biden may or may not be replaced. I don't know who has an easier path to getting rid of their old guy. I don't know if Biden, the Democrats have an easier path of getting rid of Biden, a sitting president, or the Republicans have a easy path to get rid of Trump, which is they put him in jail, prison. But I don't know if the Democrats are willing to do that because he's the center of their universe. The Democrats and the Democratic liberal media Trump is the center of their worldview, and they need Trump. And this is all everything they do is about Trump, right? I'll show you another clip about that in a moment. But Trump is everything to them. He's, pivotal to their talking points and their worldview and everything that they've done. And so if they put Trump in prison, then what are they going to do? Like, what are they going to talk about? So all of this is kind of interesting to see how it plays out. But if it just goes the way it's going now, you have two old, horrible candidates and politicians that are running against each other. Both have had failed presidencies. And, it's the epitome of, an empire that's collapsing. Because it's super and it's Tuesday? Because it's, what is the reason? Woo!
That there's never been one like this. There's never been anything so conclusive. This was an amazing night, an amazing day. It's been an incredible period of time in our country's history. It's been sad.
This is so incredible.
In so many ways, but I think it's going to be inspiring because we're going to do something that, frankly, nobody's been able to do for a long time.
Yeah, what's that, Trump? Well, what has nobody been able to do for a long time? Lose an election and sell your, people out and cause all kinds of problems for your followers, and then, go into 4 years of battles with the liberal press and the American government and state governments, and then come back and beat a geriatric president who's pooping in his Depends. What's different? Woo! Woo!
We've watched our country take a great beating over the last 3 years, and nobody thought a thing like this would be possible. We wouldn't have Russia.
Everyone thought it was going to be possible.
Attacking Ukraine. We wouldn't have Israel being attacked. Iran, as you know, was broke. When I was running things, they were broke. They didn't have money for Hamas. They didn't have money for Hezbollah. We had no inflation. Inflation is destroying the middle class. It's destroying...
Yeah, but then somebody closed down the economy and slapped on a mask and then did Operation Warp Speed. Who was that guy? And then set up the conditions where he screwed himself and they were able to steal the election from him because he stupidly allowed them to change over to mail-in ballots because he closed down the country unnecessarily. You got worked so bad, and then all the things that you did afterwards, and what you've done in the last 3 years as well, and you're just so hell bent on revenge, and your myopic view of everything revolves around Trump, and unfortunately it does, right? Trump is the center of this election like he has the last 3 presidential elections. Trump has been the center of the political universe. He is the most gravitational pull. He's got, rabid, dopey followers who can't see beyond his selfishness and his narcissism and all of it, right? And then you have the hatred that's coming from the media and the liberals and the, Democratic voters and whatever that is, right? And so this has always been about Trump. Like, everything's about Trump, and it just sucks. Like, Trump sucks. Like, the guy just needs to go away. And not that things are going to get better, but it's time, but he won't. Like, he's not going away. I mean, we'll see what happens, how the storyline finishes here.
Everything. Inflation, if you look back over the history, hundreds of years back, inflation is called a country buster. And that's what it's doing to our country. What's happened with inflation has been...
Yes, because somebody started doing COVID bailouts, which was continued under Biden. Trump did, I think, 4 to 6 trillion in bailouts, and Biden did another 6 to 8 trillion in bailouts. And that, was just them printing money. And now inflation is gone beyond a point of no return, right? There's no way to stop the national debt. There's no way to stop it's more than just the national debt. There's no way to reverse this thing, right?
And unbelievable. A lot of people say, a lot of experts have said the stock market's the only thing that's doing well, and that's doing well because our poll numbers are so much higher than...
You know, he's low energy. Like, he's not his normal Trump self.
We're going to take it, and we're going to make it like it should be, respected. Right now, we're not respected.
Right now, we're not respected. Let's get to the end of this thing.
Levels that are coming into our country. We have people coming into our country that just shouldn't be here, but many, and I say many, large percentages, they come in through the caravans, they come in many different ways. Now we find out again, they come in through airplanes, we send them in. This is crazy. But they come into our country, we're going to stop them. We're going to close our borders. We're going to have to deport a lot of people, a lot of bad people, because our countries can't live like this. Our cities are choking to death. Our states are dying. And frankly, our country is dying. And we're going to make America great again, greater than ever before. Thank you.
Yeah, you had a chance to do that and you failed. Things got worse because of you. Like the COVID thing, the way you got worked on that, and then setting it up so Biden took over with all the hatred, all the things that, you know, the whole gender thing happened. The whole redefinition of sexuality happened under Trump. Like all these things happened under him because of the hatred people had for him. So like, you know, he didn't do a good job before, and he's going to do a worse job now. I would assume he's going to win, but I don't know. Like, I don't know, you know. There's no way to say. It went from Russia hoax to damn right we're colluding. Nicole Wallace.
Presidential elections by the Russian Federation, by its intelligence services, and there's plenty of reason to be concerned. And this is not about politics. This is about national security. It is about
Russia already spreading disinformation about Biden ahead of 2024. So Biden has the two biggest, or second and third biggest cable news networks, CNN and MSNBC. But he also has CBS News, NBC News, and ABC News. And then all the liberal publications and newspapers. And so pretty much all the media is against Trump, and Fox doesn't like Trump. And, you know, I mean, Fox and Rupert Murdoch, they went after Trump. New York Post, you know, slammed Trump. They have to be on Trump's side superficially, but they screwed Trump over in 2020 on election night. Fox was the first one to call it for Biden. You know, so Fox isn't even in Trump's corner. So you have all that media. And Russia has very limited resources. They can put out things on social media, you know, whatever they're calling disinformation. But there is whole networks of disinformation networks, governmental networks, intelligence community that's against Trump. Like everything's lined up against Trump. Trump has Russia, and you have you have 80% of America, the powerful institutions. And still, you're not like slam dunk beating him because Biden sucks so bad, right? I mean, as bad as Trump is, Biden is like, you know, he's senile, and the Democrats have nothing, right? They have no real plan other than we're not Trump.
foreign country, a foreign adversary seeking to manipulate the politics and democracy of the United States of America. We are going to be vigilant about that, and we will engage the Congress on a bipartisan basis because this should be above and beyond politics.
Yeah. Nicole Wallace here. Bring it, Nicole.
He's right and he's wrong, because for Republicans, it is their politics. Now, of course, efforts by any foreign power, even an adversary, used to be and should be above politics, but they're not. Republicans are at this moment, wittingly or unwittingly, assisting Russia. Big time.
Big time. Big time. Big time. Big time.
Wittingly or unwittingly, assisting Russia. Big time.
Big time.
Case in point, former FBI informant Alexander Smirnov has been charged with lying to the FBI.
Okay, so, you know, this was from 8 days ago. This is how Russia and Trump are the center of their universe, and, you know, come on. America has rigged elections and done regime change and destroyed countries and got rid of leaders and done all these things for years, right? And so if you're going to engage in that behavior, then expect that the same behavior will be done to you. It's just, you know, like it's simple, like things that children should know. Okay, so I watched a little bit of this. I watched the Cat Williams interview with Shannon Sharp. My wife and I were traveling, so it was something to listen to while we were in the car. And I found it entertaining. I don't really like Cat Williams. I don't think he's necessarily funny. But him going scorched earth, and he's flirting with being a truther. Joe Rogan also flirting with being a truther. But, I started watching this a little bit, and, people have said there are these things in it. It was hard for me to get into it, right? Just even as entertainment. Joe Rogan's good at what he does. That's why he has a good podcast. I mean, he's good at being a podcaster. But, they're both kind of posers in one way or another. And, it became almost like a competition between them and who knows more. Cat Williams had said some, sort of threw shade on Joe Rogan when he did the Shannon Sharp thing. Whatever. But one of my viewers sent me this. A few people have said things that from it they've said I should see, and maybe I'll get through it at some point. My wife and I, if we're go driving somewhere, we might watch it or something like that. Listen to it and not watch it. But there was this one thing that somebody sent me yesterday, which is something that I cover here.
Concept of actual entities.
Yes.
Actual demonic entities that do exist.
Well, I'm saying your DNA is either fused or it's not.
Okay, so the person said that maybe he watches my show. I'm not the only person to talk about fused chromosomes. It's not DNA, it's, fused chromosomes, the second and third, and genetic manipulation. And it comes from not only the Whispers of the Brighter World prophecies, but also people like Lloyd Pye. It's a theory that's out there. It's not my theory. I didn't come up with it. And so he may or may have heard this from me, but I don't have that many views that I don't know. But there are things that I say here. I was watching the show Gold Rush. Occasionally I watch that show, like I have it taped. And I find this show interesting. I like the power equipment. And it's been on for a number of years. The whole thing kind of, I find entertaining. But there's one of the guys, there's different crews that mine gold. And this one guy, the youngest guy, Parker, was talking about they had to strip land. They have to take off the topsoil, what they called overburden, to get to the bedrock. Gold is heavy and it falls all the way to bedrock. And so bedrock is, like the cement layer, the crust of the earth. And it's where it's impenetrable. And so they have to strip everything above it. And sometimes it's 60 feet of topsoil and subsoil and whatever else, right, to get to the bedrock. And where the Yukon and where they're mining gold, they have permafrost, and they have to break through the permafrost, which is a layer of frozen, dirt and soil and things. That's always frozen, like it never thaws. And so that's a whole hassle. And, some of the stuff they can't get to early in the season, right, because it's the end of the winter. So if they can get to the pay layer before the previous season, and then they can start mining the gold as soon as the weather turns nice. And so he has a mine that's running now, like they have they're extracting gold through like a wash plant. And they need a crew to do that. But he also wanted to have enough people to strip so they could start off next season and start, having pay dirt right off the bat, right? The dirt with gold in it. And he said, I don't want to screw our future selves, right? Like, which is something that I've talked about here, right? I talked about how, Tuesday Paul was screwing over Wednesday Paul, right? Or whatever it is. That way we do something to screw over our future selves. And it certainly isn't, it's an idea that I came up independently, but it isn't my, copyrighted idea. Other people, I'm sure, have that idea. But more and more I see these things that are semi-abstract, and, they're things that are kind of, you don't hear everywhere. Like, you don't hear a lot of people talking about them. And they're starting to make their way into the mainstream media. And I don't know what it has to do with me, at least on a, people watching my channel or not, or whether it's just that these ideas, it's time for them to get out there. And those ideas are now, more and more of these ideas and truther ideas, and not just things I say here, but some of the, the real truth about whether it be spirituality or be about any number of things, are starting to make their way in front of people, the masses, which is, we've been out ahead of that now for a while, and it's good to see everybody else catching up. U.S. to probe if Chinese cars pose national data security risk. I would say yes. The United States is opening an investigation whether Chinese vehicle imports pose national security risk and could impose restrictions due to concerns about connected car technology. Well, of course they are. I mean, they're all mining for data, especially these electric vehicles and their complex computer systems. I mean, Elon Musk and all those people are doing that already. So, of course, any foreign government, data is the new gold, right? Everyone wants people's data. AOC snaps at New York protester at movie theater demanding she call Israel's military campaign in Gaza genocide. It's effed up. That's what AOC said. It's effed up.
You refuse to call it a genocide in front of everyone. I need you to understand.
She just mansplained. That's her mansplain. I need you to understand this is not. This is her mansplaining. I need you to understand, man. I'm mansplaining.
It's not okay that there's a genocide happening. You're not actively against it.
You're lying.
You went on TV and avoided talking about it.
Just people are down here still following. Okay, so she's about to go off here. That's her ginger husband or boyfriend, right? she's got a ginger, a really white guy, pale-skinned white guy. Part of her whole thing is to be an ethnic person, but she chose one of the whitest of people.
We're not lying.
We're not lying.
You've been saying it in interviews. It's insane. You haven't been calling it a genocide.
She's upset here, clapping.
You're going
to cut it, and you're going to cut this, and you're going to clip this so that it's completely out of context. I already said that it was, and y'all are just going to pretend that it wasn't over and over again. It's up, man.
It's effed up, man. Come on, man. It's effed up.
You're not helping these people, and you're not helping them.
You're not helping them. She's kind of weird looking. Look at this weird couple. Just whatever. All right, so this is the last thing here. Super Tuesday sets up Trump and Biden a rematch, a 2024 rematch. We knew this was coming, right? Now, either one of these guys, we'll get to her in a second here. Either one of these guys could die. It's not unreasonable to think when kids are dropping dead like flies, and of course, they have specific things going on. But these guys are both in their 80s. They've outlived life expectancy, and Joe Biden is falling apart. Now, I don't think he's going to die, but he could. It could happen to either one of them. Trump could go to jail, and Joe Biden could cease to function. He could just lose any capacity to be able to articulate and present his situation. And, if you know older people, just like anything else, as you get older, you have good days and bad days. You have good periods and bad periods. Look at Mitch McConnell. Remember, Mitch McConnell was glitching out. And, you have real poor health that happens, and you have glitch outs and breakdowns physically. And as you get older, it's happening to me. I run a cycle where I'm in a good phase right now. When you're young, you might get injured, you might get sick, but you're just getting better most of the time when you're a kid. And then as you get older, you enjoy good physical health, and you don't have these issues where you have, breakdowns in terms of your, physical, your ability to function. I mean, it's happening to a lot more younger people now. But let's watch this, and I'll get back to that in a second here.
This is the whole thing. This is the highlight of the night. We have our first look at the composition of today's electorate. Our first chance to talk to NBC News national political correspondent Steve Kornacki, who is, of course, as he will be all night long, at the big board with early exit
Wait, is that the big board?
poll data. Steve, what do you got?
Yeah, Nicole, I guess one thing to keep in mind here is there are only 3 states tonight where we're going to have exit polls. So most of the states that vote, we won't have exit polls for. But Virginia, North Carolina, and California, we have some exit poll data for. And secondly, if you've been watching the first couple of primaries here, there's always a disclaimer when we show you exit polls at this time of night or late afternoon, this early.
All right, so, who cares? Trump won. So going back to what I was saying, you have good days and bad days, and you have good periods and bad periods. And Joe Biden, he might have a good day on a debate night, and they have ways of, just like with athletes, to, do as best they can to prepare him, not overtax his system and maybe keep him inside and keep him from campaigning like a week before the debate and just, get him lots of rest or whatever they might do, whatever pills they might give him, short-term pills that have side effects, but will keep him lucid for a night of a debate or whatever. But he's not going to be able to withstand a campaign. And Trump is starting to break down and getting weak, and he's just not, his energy level's down. Your energy level isn't the same, right? They should be preparing for death. This is what you do, and that's not a bad thing at all. I mean, as you get older, that's what you need to do. Your mind and your consciousness goes more and more to the etheric side of things as a spiritual person. Like, it's just what happens. And the closer you are to death as you get older, the more and more you just get comfortable with being a spirit and, leaving your body behind. And, that's why older people drift off and, they're just not as conscious as they were before. They're already, leaving their body in a sense. And, there's age-appropriate behaviors, which is to get rid of any things that, anything that's left unsaid or anything that's left undone, and just resolve things, resolve relationships with loved ones, and just prepare people for what's going to happen to you, what's going to happen to them, or what's, them dealing with your death and things like that. And, entering into this phase of the end of life phase, right? It's something that's highly neglected in the American system. These guys are running for the most important political office in the country, really in the world, and, they both should be preparing for death. They should be, doing these other things. And so it's not just only not age appropriate, but it's not good for them and the country because it's not what should happen, right? And nothing's going to change, right? The big issue right now is Israel. And I don't know if that's going to be there in November. I don't know what's going to happen with that. But Israel sees this as its one opportunity to glom all that land and, the promised land. And I've talked about this extensively. And so the Republicans are worse on this issue than the Democrats, but the Democrats aren't great. And Israel's just thumbing their nose at America, even though, American government, American people are bankrolling this whole thing over there. Trump is horrible on this. He's one of his handlers, Israel. He's worse than Biden. But there's no good answer here. And, all the issues none of the issues matter because none of it matters at this point. We have a collapsing empire. And just like with the candidates themselves, there should be a preparation for Americans to understand your time in the sun and living in the so-called greatest country in the world is over. And kids already know this. The young people already know it. They know they're screwed. They've accepted it. And they've been told in every possible way. And we should know based in their work ethic and their character qualities and the breakdown of the family, the breakdown of morality, and just everything. Empires collapse. We're the only people that are struggling with it because, they know. The kids know. Like, they're already adapting to this and whatever that means, right? And whatever that's going to entail for them, they're already depressed and they're already, given up to whatever extent. They're accepting a lifestyle. I mean, I guess as long as they have video games and the internet, they're cool, right? They don't care what kind of Agenda 21 little shacks, the little apartment, 6x6 rooms you live in or whatever, right? A 6x20 apartment or something, or, whatever small little, having not owning anything and all these things. They've already given up on home ownership, and, many of them given up on having marriages and families and kids. And, they're just, they've been in, they see the apocalypse coming, which we all do to some extent. And so just like, these candidates should be preparing for death, we should be preparing for that, the inevitable collapse of our system. But everybody wants to salvage something here. Everyone wants to believe there's hope, and there's none. It certainly isn't political hope. I mean, the only hope is spirituality. The only hope is people connect to God and redeem themselves in some way, because we're lost and we're going in the wrong direction. People are getting worse and worse. It's idiocracy out there. And the breakdown in morality and the breakdown of human beings is the telltale sign, but there's all these other ones as well. And so, it's interesting because it's so effed up. These two old, failed candidates and bad people who are very similar, even though people can't see that, are running against each other as a country collapses. It's very interesting. It's like nothing we've seen before, but it doesn't have a happy ending. I mean, the happy ending is that the world will be saved from this plague of humanity that's destroying it, right? I mean, that's, in future generations we'll be able to have a more natural and normal system because the current system will have collapsed. I mean, that's the happy ending, but that's like 200 years from now. Like the real happy ending in terms of, world with spirituality as its base, Spirit built a world where people are connected internally to God and have evolved in some way, is at least 200 years from now. And so it's 200 years of suck between now and then. Only spirituality will save this world. It's Paul Romano, definitely reporting for the Apocalypse and the Ascension. Everyone have a blessed day and be grateful.